I hope you're not disappointed that I'm not wearing my dinosaur costume today.
I'm very disappointed.
Okay, wait for Halloween.
I'm not disappointed.
I'm relieved, actually.
Okay.
You look very comfortable today.
Well, my dinosaur costume is also very comfortable, but it's special occasion only. All right, so welcome to Lunch and Learn, and for the camera and everybody, hi. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Eric Watterson, and this is session number 1 of a 6-part series in which we are discussing some of the major findings from the NSSE, the National Survey of Student Engagement. Just a little background on the NSSE. I know that may be hard to read, but the NSSE is a nationwide survey administered to college students. We're talking specifically about traditional undergrads in this context. It's a survey that we have done twice in the past, and we have put it on our schedule of assessments, and we're doing this now every 3 years. The reason that we're doing it on that schedule is freshmen who take it again as seniors. So we will have this longitudinal design built in. Previous administrations, we did them far enough apart that we weren't able to capture some longitudinal data. So we administered this survey in spring of 18 to a selection of Greenville students. It was an open invitation, so anybody who applied took it. We're going to be focusing here on seniors, the data that we get from the seniors, because they are the ones that have been on the campus for 2, 3, or 4 years, and their results should be the most meaningful indicators to us of what we have been doing and why this might be relevant for our academic program. So 6 sessions. We're going to be specifically focusing on what the report calls engagement indicators, hence the name of the survey, student engagement. And here are the indicators. They're divided up into 4 themes. So the theme of academic challenge is the one we're going to spend most of our time on today, and those items over there are the main content. We're also going to focus today on one item in the experiences with faculty theme and the idea of effective teaching practices, and then the next one down, campus environment, quality of interactions. We're going to, again, focus on seniors. This is a freshman and senior survey. So the seniors who answered this in spring of 18 had taken it as freshmen. So we know it's changed over time. We're also noting our comparisons to our cohort, which is CCCU schools. We also have national comparative data. We're not so much focused on national comparisons. We're trying to keep ourselves within the realm of CCCU. And we're going to, again, focus on those items in which we, as a school, found significant difference compared to the CCCU comparator group. So significant differences in this case means where we were significantly lower performing or underperforming compared to CCCU. And those are the ones that are highlighted there. We do have several areas in which we were on par or even outperformed CCCU benchmarks. That's a story for a different day. So we're crafting these sessions, and this one specifically, hopefully focusing mostly toward faculty, so department chairs, program coordinators, yes, but anybody who teaches, this is going to be very useful for you. It extends down to tutors and academic coaches, because we're going to be looking at academic indicators, and coaches and academic tutors in our programs, or the Student Success Center, can also help facilitate what we're going to be talking about. Maybe there's an FLC group that could come out of some of this data, maybe the next time around. And then, of course, the extension to CTL, because they have that function of academic support, course design, these types of things. So it's all very related. I want to just give you a ton of information. So this is really information transmission now, and for, I don't know, for 10 or 15 minutes, maybe. There can be some questions along the way, so if you've got a question that comes up, please ask the question. For the sake of the camera and the video, we may need to repeat the question, just so it gets recorded well. But we can deal with your questions along the way. Anytime you want to say, hey, what about, or repeat that, please jump in and do that. Yes, Lindsay?
Do you know that the same students who took it as freshmen took it as seniors, or or are they like different subsets of languages?
The included in the number of students who took it as seniors are the same ones who took it as freshmen. We don't have one-to-one correspondence in the data. So mostly we have, say, if we had 200 freshmen that took it, well, we don't have 200 of them now as seniors. We don't have about 80. Yeah, so we don't have one-to-one. Actually, I do have ID numbers. I can match it. I'm not supposed to. For that purpose. We're focusing on the seniors because, again, they reveal what we have been doing for a series of years, and this is hopefully to give us insight. And the more we can glean from this data and try to say, how can we make improvements? It's good for us, it's good for our students, and then when we reassess in 2021, which is not that far away, spring of 2021, we will see change over time, hopefully. Yes, this is potentially connected to HLC accreditation, where we are using data about our students to create improvements. So we're going to talk about these 4 things today. These are engagement indicators. They're specifically called higher order learning. So in the survey, it was item 4, B, C, D, and E. So here's what we're doing. The idea of applying facts, theories, or methods to practical problems or new situations. Application as a higher order learning strategy. Evaluating a point of view, decision, or information source. So evaluation as a higher order strategy. Analyzing an idea, experience, or reason, or forming new ideas, the idea of creating something new. These are the 4 big things that we want to look at. So the data that I'm going to show you now are simply some charts. Here's where our students perform, here's the CCCU average, and a little bit of other comparative data. So,
is there an item 4A that we're just not looking at, just out of curiosity?
yes, there is an item 4A.
And we maybe did good on that? Just every once in a while, it's nice to throw us a bone.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, just, thank you.
Yeah. So in the presentation I gave in May,
Yeah.
we highlighted where we were at least on par or
Okay.
actually doing better than CCC averages. So now we're talking about here's where we know we have room to improve.
Okay, just curious.
Everything has room to improve, but these are the ones that we want to specifically focus on
Okay, that's cool.
today. So here's the item. How much did your coursework emphasize applying facts, theories, and methods to practical problems or new situations? We are asking the students to retrospectively consider their education and how often did courses ask them to do these things. So, on the right-hand side of the chart, we have the black bar being CCCU average for the freshmen in 2015, and the orange bar is our local freshmen in 2015. So we were above average. And when those students became seniors, we just flip-flopped our data. Yes?
What's the margin of error on this?
Plus or minus 2.5%. I made that up, you know that. No, we took off the error bars. I have the error bars.
I mean, my question is just, are these differences actually meaningful?
Yes, these are significantly different. That's why we're highlighting. We're not just choosing numbers. These are the ones that are highlighted as significant differences. You look at that and you think, well, you know, on the scale of things, it's what, 6.7 points? Is that a big deal? Well, yeah, it is highlighted to us as a big deal. If you want the, you know, the margin of errors and the standard errors, I think for those two. But here's our point. Seniors are, if we're using CCCU average as a benchmark, we're saying, okay, we're less than the benchmark. So our seniors are telling us only about 72% of the time have their courses emphasize this aspect of higher order learning. Applying what you know to practical problem solving. So this could be one of these things where you think, okay, well, under what circumstances would our seniors be doing these things? Or what would they have been doing across their 4 years that would have led them to apply what they know to problem solving? So maybe this is practicum. Maybe this is, hey, let's say University 401. This is, you know, several different courses where we might think, it seems reasonable that they do this. And our syllabi may even have that built in. Is their memory bad? Are they just not thinking straight in this moment? We bring it up because we want to say, this could be an area in which we could boost our. So, yeah, continuing on. This is the level in the Bloom's taxonomy, and we're going to refer to Bloom's taxonomy here as we go. It's the application level. 4C, let's do your coursework emphasize analyzing an idea, experience, or line of reasoning in depth by examining its parts. So again, we're looking at the analysis area. As freshmen, our seniors were really on par with CCCU benchmarks, but when those students became seniors, the seniors are then telling us, whoa, maybe not so much. There's a huge gap there. So again, what are we doing that could be better? So it's application of stuff and analyzing. We give them information. We do this. We lecture at them. But where are we asking them to put that to use, to analyze, and again, to solve problems? All right, so that was the analysis layer. The next one, how much did your coursework emphasize evaluating a point of view, decision, or information source? As freshmen, we were above average, which was wonderful there. Our freshmen were several points above. But then the seniors are saying, yeah, maybe we don't do it as much. We have 64% saying, yeah, we do that, either a lot or quite a bit. Well, what about the rest of them? 64% of the time they do this. But as seniors, the suggestion here is maybe they should be doing it more frequently. Or they should be remembering that they have done it more readily. Maybe that's more accurate.
And this is definitely a yes, no. It's not some sliding scale thing. It's like yes or no.
It's a scale. So the bar indicates the percentage of students who said we do it very much or quite a bit. So it's a 4-point scale.
Okay.
So the other end is no, I don't really do that at all. Andrew?
Do you have this data broken out by major or program or anything?
Yes. Unfortunately, based on the cohort, some of our majors may have 0, 1, 2 people in it, so we can't make effective comparisons. The largest single major identified by the students had only like 20 people in it. So it's hard to make the major by major comparison. All right, the last item in this category is this one. How much does your coursework emphasizing forming new ideas? So we're looking at the top level in the Bloom's pyramid, which we'll get to in just a second. Again, as freshmen, we were within our area on this item, but as seniors, again, they're saying only 56% of the seniors are saying, yes, we do that very much or quite a bit. Forming new ideas. So one of the implications could be, in their memory, what they're reporting to us, a significant amount of their coursework is simply, well, I remembered stuff. Maybe I have facts and figures in my head. I have content, but I don't do very much or perhaps enough at the senior level to take what I know and create something new out of it. And that's that higher order skill, creating something new. That's the top level of the pyramid. Yeah, Eric.
So one thing that stands out to me on all of these, and not just with our students, but even the CCU, even the cohort benchmark, is the amount or the level that this is reported between freshmen and seniors is very small. But these are higher order. It seems to me like these are the kinds of things that should be emphasized more in upper level coursework
Yes.
than in introductory coursework.
Yes.
So I'm a little confused about why we don't see more of a difference between the benchmark even, which is presumably a whole bunch of schools, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. On one hand, the item is the same item. Say freshmen and seniors are responding to the exact same question prompt. To what degree do the courses that you've taken emphasize this concept?
So that's all your courses now you've taken, not just your
Well,
senior
we would
year.
assume that they're thinking holistically when they
Yeah.
answer, not just what they're in at the moment.
Right.
That
So
probably
you wouldn't
is
see
just an
that
assumption.
much difference.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and this was a spring semester administration, so at that point, our freshmen haven't had very many courses and everything is new and shiny, and maybe they're saying, oh yeah, the college is rocking my world, my brain is going like gangbusters. And by the time they're the seniors, they're like, I am so out of here, don't ask me. Maybe that's just a reality in the data. Yeah, Jane?
I'd like one other observation. We have quite a few people that graduate after 3 years, and some of those are our best students.
Yep.
So
and
we've
they're
taken
not
them
here.
out.
In terms of the longitudinal scope, they're not here.
Right.
That's true. Yep. Anybody that graduated even in December, if they were absent or refused to check their email anymore, they wouldn't be in the survey. All right, so here's where we're wanting to go with this. That is the revised Bloom's taxonomy that puts it in this pyramid scale. The key word that applies to each level. So one of the projects that is currently going on through Gen Ed Committee, and Dave Holden is spearheading this, is to create a taxonomy, if you will, of a 100, 200, 300, 400 level course at the undergrad level to say, here's some broad educational concepts that are appropriate for 100, 200, 300, 400 levels. It's a draft document, but we're trying to utilize it a little bit in this context. So what we're suggesting here in the Blooms is the bottom 2 layers, that's wholly the domain of a 100 level class or something that is considered to be introductory. You're being exposed to information. Do you remember what it is, and do you display some sort of understanding of the information? So memory and a little bit of, okay, you get it. But if that's 100 level, what do we do next? Well, then you got to say, where does this apply? I have a knowledge base, and what can I do with it? Where can I see? Aha, it goes here, it goes here, it goes here. The application. And then move that up to analysis is the idea of, okay, let me think more deeply here. Let me give an example of how it would work. Let me critique, contrast, compare, these types of things with the knowledge that I have, and maybe find holes, and you're striving up toward a higher level of analysis and creating something new. So, we can come back to that. The bottom level, 100 level, the 2 layers, just take it up 1 and say if you're flowing into 200 levels, yeah, you might need to rely upon understanding, but strive to go up a little bit. 300 level, maybe you're going to peg yourself right in the middle. This is where we need application and analysis going on, and maybe striving for up toward analyze. But if you're a 400 level class, we should be striving, this is aspirational, we should be striving to get the students up the taxonomy, to strive toward, I'm not just remembering facts and figures anymore, I'm finding where do I use it, how, when, where, what, under what circumstances. Do I need to choose this or do I need to choose that, given what I'm trying to problem solve? Or I'm looking at David in case studies, it's like, here's the case, draw all your knowledge together and boom, do something important with it. Critique and analyze and maybe design something. That's just as, this is the suggestion on the material. All right. Here's some lecture stuff too. HLC criteria, for example, where does this fit in? The NSSE is really wonderful for us because they publish to us a guide of here's all the questions in this survey and here's which criteria you might want to use them on. So we've selected out a few of these things. So for instance, in the criteria 3 is teaching and learning quality, resources, and support. Are our programs quality? Are they well resourced? And do they have the appropriate support? So specifically, do we demonstrate that the exercise of intellectual inquiry, the acquisition, application, and integration of broad learning and skills are part of what we do? So if we're striving at higher order learning, that's an indicator that we have quality program and that students are actually learning stuff.
Hey Eric, is it populated in this data with our online learners too?
If they replied to the email invitation, which was a D-student distribution.
Okay.
Yeah, D-student traditional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are online learners included in that traditional student email server group?
Depending on which one was chosen, I mean, you can do D-student traditional, you can do D-student online, you can do D-student all. It would have been an all.
All, okay.
Yeah, because we knew we had a whole bunch of online learners and we weren't trying to kick them
Right.
out by any means.
Okay.
Other surveys are only the people that live on the premises, and other surveys are not.
Okay.
This is an everybody independent survey. Do we articulate our purposes? Program objectives, course objectives, institutional objectives? Yeah, we do that. broad knowledge, intellectual concepts, attitudes. Okay, yeah, if we are aspirational toward every undergraduate student should be a person who thinks critically, can apply their knowledge, and go off into the world and be awesome, we need to be moving up the taxonomy as we move up our curriculum, 1, 2, 3, 400 level. So that's what we're getting at. More stuff. Do we fulfill the claims for our enriched educational environment? So this applies not just to the traditional curriculum, but it's also applications to co-curricular. We have some details there to work out as to how this works in co-curricular things, but we're working on that. And then, of course, we have to demonstrate that we have evidence that we're actually doing these things. We have claims, but it's always the Jerry Maguire, show me the money. Who gets it? Show me the money? Okay, 2 of you. Got it, thank you. All right, hey, we're almost down to the end in which we can have some more conversation, but the takeaway from this, we're going to take a little e-sports language here, and what we're going to do is encourage you to level up. Who gets that one? Level up.
Wow, I like level.
Okay, level up. So the ask and the task. The ask is to examine your syllabi, looking specifically at your course objectives, and determine on the Bloom's taxonomy, where am I at? What level do I have? And how could I appropriately level it up? So if I'm at a 100 level class and I'm using the remember and understand, great, you're where you need to be. If you've got a 400 level and you're saying, remember the key facts of the discipline, that may be a little underperforming. Hopefully by the time they're at 400 level, you don't have to tell them, remember what the subject is about. Hopefully you can just move on. So that's the ask and the task. The tie-in to the takeaway, Jamie told me not to say take home, it's take away, because it's not a homework assignment. We, and I say we, I mean Casey and Jamie have created a D2L course for you to continue the learning and hence learning. Okay,
So you have to go under bright space.
oh, maybe it came open. Let me pop over here.
Under community registration.
You changed that?
I had to, yeah.
Okay.
So they can self-register, but it's under community registration. I sent out in an email this morning on the directions, the
But you have to-
screenshots on how to do it.
You have to be in D2L, but not in any of your.
You can't be in a
classes.
course, you have to be on the home of D2L.
There it is. Okay, so I'm gonna end the show here and hopefully call it D2L. All right, so D2L. The course is called NSSE Lunch and Learn. That link that was in those slides, which of course are inside the course, unfortunately. So that we'll put that link out in a better way. So the idea here is that the brief overview,
Searching for
there are all these
No,
sessions,
put bright space.
and here's a hey, start here document, which
Community
again
registration.
gives you an overview of what these are supposed to be about, gives you, sorry it's so small, what we're going to be doing. Session by session, we're going to be doing this once a month throughout the year, so we have 3 fall, 3 spring. It's an information give. It's a time to discuss and interact, and then the task is, at least in this one, to level up. So we're asking you to get together with your syllabi and do your brainstorm. Next, to get together with your colleagues in your area, because the curriculum is with your colleagues. You can't just isolate yourself and say, well, I'll level up my stuff and then not quite be cognizant of how that affects the course that comes next for your students. So definitely do your own good thinking, get together with your colleagues that are co-teaching in the program and say, here's what I'm thinking. Here's how I might put this information to use. And there is a worksheet that has been prepared for your fun and enjoyment. So lunch and learn session 1, those are the slides. Oops, didn't need to click on it. So the slides are there. Let me come back. Here, the takeaway activity and a Dropbox for us. Let me just open that up for you. Oops. Oh yeah, wonderful. Okay. There it is. So there's, oh, this is going to be neat. Works perfectly on your own monitor when you go to these. So here's the activity, and there's an example that's been populated. This is not a real course. We just made up a course and put some numbers on there. So, for example, your course may have 3 course objectives in it, 3 course objectives, and you don't need to label them out because you know what they are. Just say 1, 2, and 3, and you're going to look at your objective statement and say, what is my key verb going on in there? Oh man.
Yeah, my computer does that too.
Well, now I can't get it back. You only have
I do
so
it to
much
the
sensitivity on the touchpad here. Anyway, so I have a printed version of it. I'll just read from that. So you may have however many course objectives you have. You should have, hopefully, 1 key verb. If you have the word "and," generally that's not a good thing because you're connecting 2 ideas that should be separated, and I'll say should be separated. So a key verb. So for instance, if you've got the word describe, well, what level in the taxonomy is that? And you have a taxonomy given to you, which obviously I have trouble touching. So the word describe is currently in the understand level. If you've got define, for instance, that's the remember level. If you've got discuss, that's in the understand level. So my example class is a 300 level course, and I have 3 100 level action verbs. So the suggestion here is how could you level that up? So for instance, if you want describe something, level it up to analyze something. Because if you can analyze, you can describe. So don't stick with describe, go to analyze. If you have define, my leveled up verb is to play with contrast and compare, which is an analysis level. If you've got discuss, up that to differentiate. Because if you can differentiate this versus that, if you can say here's how things are same and here's how things are different, it's kind of contrast and compare as well. You're also leveling up to an analyze. So the 2 levels there are apply and analyze in the blooms, which are middle and reaching above middle, rather than keeping them below. So again, the big idea is do the self-examination of where are your verbs on the taxonomy and go from there. So the handout also has the taxonomy with a suggestion of where 1, 2, 3, 400 level courses may fall. And there's a range. And then you also have in the handout online is a more extensive collection of action verbs that are in the 5 to 6 levels. So if you might say, well, I like this verb, well, no problem. It's probably a synonym in the list. Right? Rich, I see a question blooming.
Well, not so much a question. I was struck when I was looking at your data. It kind of reminded me of the Dunning-Kruger effect, because in the Dunning-Kruger effect, when we take the persons who are most incompetent are the most competent. And it strikes me that our incoming students may be overly confident about their knowledge of what they're doing here.
Yep.
But then when we give them information, those who have some information actually are going to lower their estimates of what they need. So instead of seeing this as a negative, I actually see that our students may have a better idea of what these ideas are, so they may see themselves more realistically.
Right.
Because to get our students to a level where they're the only persons who really know what they do or do not know are those who are very expert. And I think our data has shown us historically that the students that we get in we're not moving to graduate level in the 4 years.
Right.
That is, if not an unrealistic goal, it is certainly an idealistic goal. So you could look at this data and see that the shift, the going lower, is actually a reflection of the fact that they now have more knowledge and know what they didn't know before.
Right. And even if that's true, which it probably is, that also is a challenge to us to say, well, we want the students to be moving farther than that.
But they actually made it, is my point. You know, what I'm trying to say, if you take that logic, but they're just, they actually, the first estimate was actually an inflated estimate of those things, which they weren't aware of those, which was interesting. We actually were higher than other schools. So I'm saying we might be doing better than other schools by how we're exposing these things.
Well,
It's
by that same logic, wouldn't the CCCU averages also show the decline?
They may have a different,
procedures.
they may have a different student body than we have.
Well, that is true. We
may
know that our student body is pretty different in many key ways from CCCU averages.
Yeah.
Which is why we don't put the national averages up there, because name every Ivy League you can. They're all in the national average, and so it's skewed. So we don't do that. So my big point here, the intended takeaway is, you know, take up the challenge of figuring out, using the Bloom's taxonomy, where are your courses? Is there an appropriate leveling up to be done? And figure that out, discuss it with your colleagues, and then maybe you're going to use that as here's something that I can improve in my courses for the sake of my curriculum and ultimately for the sake of your students, to pull them up toward greater, higher order learning. Selfishly, it's so when we retest in 2 years, maybe our scores will go up. If our scores are going up, hopefully that's an indicator that students' abilities have similarly gone up, which I think is something we all need to be striving for, to increase the capacity of our students. David?
Following up on Rich's and Eric's point in terms of the young people that are coming, many of them are coming from evangelical churches and an evangelical framework, and I realize we're beyond that in CCU, but largely they are. And in that framework, you're taught much more, this is the way, walk in it, rather than a higher order learning.
Right.
So to a certain extent, in looking at the CCCU schools, you are looking at individuals who were trained to think not in the direction that you're doing in terms of higher learning. Could you talk about that? And secondly, in our evaluation process, one of the evaluators is, of course, the student evaluations. And again, student evaluations largely roll on the fact of, did you say what you were going to do, and then did you do what you say you were going to do? If you get to higher level skills, particularly with an evangelical young person, I don't know what to do, in a sense. Uncertainty is very difficult for our evangelical students to deal with because we're not taught to deal with that. So to a certain extent, could you address the issue of the evangelical young person and higher level learning, and secondly then, the role of the student evaluations within the CCU schools, and the fact that higher level learning is, in a sense, discouraged largely in the evaluation process because, in a sense, you're making me confused and difficult rather than telling me explicitly what to do on my exams.
First, I'd like to take on the issue, and I don't know what time it is. How much time do we have in the session?
12:18.
Okay, so we're going to go just a few minutes. Simply on the idea of higher order learning, if we assume that CCCU schools, by and large, draw from an evangelical student base, and if we make that assumption about Greenville students, is it simply a cohort difference that would explain the different performance between ours and the CCCU averages? If we accept the premise that CCCU schools are largely evangelical in their student base, why do all the other schools on average outperform Greenville? That's number one. Number two, we have a host of other data that suggests that our students, at least, are not predominantly evangelical. They're not coming from high church background, low church background, mid-church background. They're not coming from, oh, I spent my life in Sunday school and I can recite whatever we ask them to recite. That's not who our students are largely. So we do have some of those significant cohort differences. again, population-wise, we're the exact reverse of the CCCU average in terms of male-female populations, of athlete, non-athlete populations. We know that we draw from a different ACT band than an average CCCU school. And maybe Rich's point is also needing to be more well taken, that for our students, maybe our numbers are great. But I'm not sure that I am on board with the idea that evangelicalism mitigates critical thinking and higher order learning. It's an interesting question, which we could explore empirically. I don't think we could answer that question with this data. Yeah. But it's nice to consider as a factor. In our course evaluations, we do have some very broad items about, did the course do what it was supposed to do? Did you apply knowledge and whatnot? Maybe the specific items on our current evaluations are not geared toward these concepts of higher order learning, maybe in a way that they could be or need to be. So I'd say that critique is well taken. Yeah. But again, not something we can fix right now. But we could certainly talk about it more.
But you see, and again, let's talk CCCU.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying is that as we as organizations decide we want to be higher level learning, our evaluations are in a sense reinforcing lower level learning, so that if indeed you do push that, your evaluations are going to say you didn't accomplish the objectives that I had as a student in mind for you to do.
Yeah.
And I think as organizations we need to begin to address that because we're saying one thing, but our evaluation that we all live with is saying something completely different.
Right. And let's make sure, we can
Continue that.
work that out. Yeah, let's look at our tools
Right.
and see if we're having parity in our
Yes.
tools. Absolutely. I think I'm getting the signal from the cameraman that I need to be adjourning. So please find your way into D2L, find the course. There's a discussion board to participate in. There's the take-home activity to take away activity. Call it homework if you want to call it homework. Thank you all so much.
Yep.